Hey, welcome y'all!
And greeting all you thing foreigners from other nations.
That's
Please,
right.
Lord, prepare them for the butt whooping they're about to receive.
Nice.
I
This
changed
is
it up.
the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 41. It's Friday, March 25th, 2016. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace, as always, joined by Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's happening, man?
That's right. We are pushing on into Easter weekend here, and we wanted to get a podcast out this week because we just didn't want to leave you hanging high and dry.
That's right. Well, let's just get right into it. What you drinking today?
I'm trying to finish up a Jim Beam and tonic so I can get to this delicious Terrapin Recreation Ale.
The local stuff.
Yeah, local stuff.
Right out of Athens. We've talked about them before. I have already finished off my little mixed drink here of Jim Beam and Coke, and already into the, what is this? Terrapin, another Terrapin. Actually, I know it's Terrapin because it was yours. Are you farting
excuse
over
me.
there?
Sorry.
Oh, man.
My bad.
Sherwin's playing with his new Easter presents, courtesy of Tailgate Mama.
Tailgate Mama gave us some funny stuff to play with, and I got the fart gack, so that's always fun.
Tailgate Mama lives out in Hawaii. Sherwin's just dumping it all over. Oh, it's just a mess over here now. The ears are on the
Freaking
floor.
yard sale over here.
Yard sale. Yeah, so we've got bunny ears on. We've got fart putty. We've got, look, what is this? This is beer brittle, so it's like peanut brittle but with beer. Sherwin's gonna mash that little fart thing forever. We got our jelly beans. There's some sort of these are cups. Oh, and delivered from Tailgate Mama. There's one with 2 Jim Beam bottles in it, and another one that's got this Johnny Walker Black Label and the Chivas Regal.
Oh,
Man.
it's a twist off.
Yeah, it's twist off. Yeah, don't get too crazy into it.
Yeah, okay.
So we got all kind of sundries up here. As usual, the jelly beans, which everybody, all the fans of the podcast know that we're saving.
And as per usual, I'm a
till
total
later.
9-year-old when it comes to all this stuff.
Let's talk Fontana. Fontana.
Which was already, so the thing that really killed me about Fontana was the few people that haven't paid attention over the last 5 years. They were saying, oh, we're just going to have another boring race. And it's like, well, it sucks that is the momentum some people have in their brains about that track, because it damn sure was that for a decade.
Well, and it hadn't been for a long time now, or I say a long time. For a few
the
years,
last
it's been pretty good.
5-6 years, it's been crazy. Those 2 years where Jimmy and Kevin battled it out. Mm-hmm. The crazy pass that Kyle Busch made when Denny and Joey got into each other.
It's one of those classic Kyle Busch passes.
Yeah, I mean, like it's been a good race for all the right reasons the last 5 years, and it stayed a good race, and even better so because of this package that we've got now.
Yep. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the surface plays a huge role, just like Atlanta.
Yeah, that thing's chewing up tires just like Atlanta. Let's talk about Xfinity first. I think probably the big news there, and we're not going to go into another spiel on Kyle Busch.
Yeah, well, I mean, we don't want to go into the whole, a Cup driver, yada yada yada.
Right.
What we want to talk about is the last 2 laps where Kyle Busch, daggum near won the race on 3 tires. And there's just no way of getting around that.
So he blows a tire, and he keeps racing it. And I didn't notice, or I didn't see any big chunks or big reason really to throw a caution there. That's been the big question this week, as far as Xfinity goes. Should they have thrown a caution right there? Obviously, Kyle Busch thinks they should have. He could have gone in, got pitted, and then passed 14 people on the last 2 laps because. He can do that and come back and win the race.
Yeah, well, the thing is he's hollering that there ought to be debris because his whole right front fender's torn off the car. Mm-hmm. Now, there aren't any crush panels in the front, so there's less likely you're going to have debris in that case. But when Brendan Gaughan says after the race that he was back 15 deep, running 3 wide both of those laps, mm-hmm. and didn't see any debris, I tend to believe him. I think NASCAR did exactly what they should have done, which was let a very interesting situation play out until it couldn't play out any longer. And once Kyle Busch took the white, well, their hands were tied. So unless his car spun out, why not let it play out? Because at that point, you either have Kyle Busch winning the race, or you have some crazy situation where Austin Dillon passes him in turn 4 and wins.
Right. Well, that wasn't the only thing that happened. Austin Dillon wasn't the first one to have a chance.
That's right. And we were all hoping that Daniel Suarez would find a way to get his first win. However, I almost want to say as a fan that I'm kind of glad he didn't, because I think Daniel Suarez is good enough to earn like a go out there and lead a bunch of laps and win a race win.
Yeah, beat the whole
instead of just
field.
An awkward, weird situation where the guy that should have won has a thing, led again like 160 of 200 laps or whatever it was, 120 of 150, and then Daniel Suarez kind of just sort of swoops in and wins. Now, fuel strategy changes everything. Everybody was kind of monkeying with fuel, and that's going to happen. But I think we ended up with a good situation to talk about.
It was fun to watch. It was fun to see that. Yeah, just like we said, we've got one guy blow a tire. Now he's actually still running laps, so he's 3-wheeling it. And here comes somebody else. Oh, nope, they ran out of gas, and now here comes Austin Dillon. But is Austin Dillon even gonna pass in time? It was really cool. But
and Kyle moves up to block him, and so it gets a little bit dicey there.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, and it raised a question: should there be a difference in calling or throwing the caution on that last lap versus on a regular lap? Like, obviously, if this was lap 100 out of 200, they throw the caution.
Well, you saw Kyle Busch slow down. So he gets the tire problem, but he's like 11 seconds in the lead or whatever it was. It probably was even more than that. And he blows the tire, and he moves down and slows down. Mm-hmm. And the caution doesn't come out. So he's like, well, all right, so gasses it back up. I guess we're going to do this.
Yeah, and comes back and takes a white.
Beats everybody to the white flag.
Now it's on.
And then it's like, can I drive this 3-wheeler to the end and win this race? And he came only about 2 seconds, really, from doing that.
Yeah.
Like, you really only missed that window by a couple of seconds, which is what we should be talking about. I mean, obviously, what he said on the radio, we're going to address next week. But what we should be talking about is, how in the hell did that guy race 4 miles with 3 tires and finish second?
Because he's a magician.
I mean, one of the answers is, the skeptical answer is, well, he had a half a lap lead. Okay, cool. Well, that's part of racing. But, I mean, he went into the corner hot and stayed in the gas. I mean, I was like eye-opening the whole time. I don't even know that I said anything. I was like, what's happening? What am I watching?
Yeah, he's exactly that. He's a magician behind the wheel. What can I say other than he was one of the only people on earth who could hold on to that. And I think that's another reason they're not throwing the caution. They're looking at it like, he's still running. He's still
like, he just hit 190 miles an hour on 3 tires. What do you want us to do here?
Yeah. But I think they should actually have a different, obviously not a rule in a rule book, but a different subjectivity thrown at a last lap potential caution versus any other ones. Because even if he's spitting debris out everywhere, there's as long as it's not giant hunks of brake rotor or anything.
Right.
They're not fixing to run over it again.
Hey,
maybe the winner will when he goes and does a victory lap, but that's it.
At the end of an NFL football game, an NBA basketball game, or an NHL game, the rules change. Mm-hmm. They change. That a foul you might have called in the first quarter, you're not calling in the fourth. A pass interference you called in the first quarter, you're not calling in the fourth. You know, a questionable call, and I don't know if I shouldn't have mentioned hockey because I don't know enough, but let's just put it this way. Calls that are questionable are living in the gray area in terms of letting it go versus calling it. When it comes down to the end of a professional sporting event, you're just going to see a different way of reacting. And I don't know why we get so excited about it in NASCAR. And you and I certainly have been in that group that gets excited.
Yep.
But we've also been watching college football or watching NFL football or NBA basketball or college basketball and going, that was a foul an hour ago.
Right.
Or that was cheating an hour ago.
Cheating, yep.
And now it's not. And like, well, I mean, it's just not. It's human nature. Like, what is going to end up being a penalty kick in soccer in the first half isn't necessarily a penalty kick with 3 minutes to go in a tie game.
When we got a comment from Honest Race Fan on the Periscope. Thank you for joining the PETM posse on Periscope, by the way. Appreciate y'all joining.
I saw Over the Walls jumped in there, too.
Woo!
Thanks
What's
for being here,
guys?
Cliff.
So he said even a brake rotor through the radiator, you ain't going to overheat in one lap.
Right.
You might run better. Get that thing hot.
and that is the crazy part of the way these pressurized systems are set up now, is that you're absolutely right. And you can run 4, maybe 5 miles with absolutely no coolant getting to the motor, or no air cooling the radiator, I should say.
Right.
As long as the coolant system stays pressure locked, it's going to keep the motor cool enough to run those laps.
Yep. So there's no reason to throw the caution there. And we've got some other segments coming up, and I'm doing a lot of agreeing with NASCAR today, which is maybe not normal for me. But
I'm happy to do it, to be honest with you.
I am too. That means we're starting to align. We're getting better.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
the more
so.
and more that I can agree, the better off we are. So, like Sherwin said, not gonna sit here and rant and rave again on Kyle Busch and the Xfinity Series, but we did want to bring up how that race ended, which was really cool, and just something different than perhaps. Oh, what you doing there?
Pause just a second.
Attaboy.
Oh, there we go.
So, something a little different than Kyle Busch just running away with it again. We actually have some drama there.
Yeah, I think 100% they made the right call. If we look back, I think we could have said that 10 minutes after the race. We're saying it 6 days after the race, 7 days after the race.
Let's talk about Cup. The best place to start with Cup actually is with before cars even started rolling. We had a national anthem.
Oh my goodness, this seems like it's coming on the reg.
This,
to use the lingo of today, sing the damn song.
Yeah.
Sing the damn song.
Well, we had an issue in Atlanta, because I think you were with that buddy of ours, and we're getting some swag or whatever it was.
We're trying to get Travis a headset so he could talk with us during the race.
Right.
I missed it.
So Sherwin missed it in Atlanta, but I stood up and I was actively booing the person singing the national anthem. I mean, I'm sure they're a nice person and blah 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 blah, but dadgummit, just sing the anthem. And the same thing happened here in Fontana. It's like, can't y'all get somebody? And then they had somebody come on and do the command that was fantastic. It was a top 5 command ever. And so to go from that low, I'm glad we went to the high of the command. But y'all, you gotta if you're singing the anthem, sing the anthem. If you're doing the command, you need to go crazy. You need to. This is your one shot.
Well, I wish I could remember the artist, but because of the one that I think is the perfect anthem. But I seem to recall Eric Church doing one, and we're like, yep. And it's not because we're Eric Church fans. It's because he just sang the damn song. And one that we really like a lot is in the Friday night race at Bristol, just a brass band from one of the local, little
military deals.
Local Army Reserve groups.
Okay.
Band or something. One of those races that we go to on the regular is that all they do is brass.
Yeah.
I think the Cup race, they bring in the kids choir from one of the local schools.
Yeah,
something.
you're right.
But I think that Friday night race, they do like a brass military band. It's like, that's perfect.
I think that's, yes, keep doing that, but doing that every time. I saw somebody on the Periscope saying it. It's phoning it in a little bit. Like, let's bring some talent in there. Let's have them show off themselves doing it and being, being talented and being able to sing the song. But, don't make it your own, I guess, is where we've talked about it before. Just,
well, you can't.
Or if you're going to make it your own, do like what Marvin Gaye did back when he sang it and made it his own. He was incredible and completely sort of changed the song around. I thought it was really neat when he did it. Other people might not like it as much, but he did a really neat rendition.
I'm not familiar with Marvin Gaye's rendition, but if you're a good enough artist, you can own every version of the anthem, of your anthem, your version of the anthem without changing syllables, accent, stuff or how many. I'm tripping over this because I'm so mad, but you can make it your own without changing what it is.
Yeah.
I saw somebody slip in a Metallica in there. I bet Metallica would be pretty respectful of the way the anthem is written today, both in terms of words and music.
Well, I'm gonna take a little leap of faith and see if I can do this without us getting flagged or anything. But I'm gonna show you just a piece of the Marvin Gaye one. Here we go.
Cool.
I mean, it was Marvin Gaye. You know, it was just unique. It was special.
Can you see by the dawn's early light?
So the whole thing went like that.
Yeah, and to answer the person that just came over Periscope about Metallica doing the anthem at San Francisco Giants fans, that's exactly what I'm talking about because I've seen that and it's awesome. And I didn't have anything negative to say about it because they just sang the damn song, but they did it the way Metallica would sing the damn song.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, good. Good. So I'm okay with some renditions and stuff. Just I don't know. If you're going to do a rendition, how about screen it by about 50 people first that are not yes men?
Well, and the thing is, a lot of these artists that end up doing these versions that we really don't like, it's like, okay, so who is this artist again?
Oh, trying to make a name. Yeah.
It's like,
well, you made the wrong name, Bubba.
Who are you?
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the race. Superman
did some Superman things on that last restart, didn't he? Or should we not lead in with that?
Well, I mean, we can go ahead and lead into. What'd you think about the race? Let's start with that. How about that?
So I'll talk about it first as a fan of a particular car, frustrated. Second, as a fan of the sport, man, that track is so much fun. If any track is deserving of a second spot after losing a second spot because of boredom, it'll be Fontana.
Yeah.
I don't know that that'll happen anytime soon, but the surface they have there and what the cars can do now, what they could do before, like we said, the last 5 years, but what they can do now, boy, that's a race. If we're going to go to a fast track, that's where I want it to be.
Yes. And these guys, I mean, upward almost 210 mile an hour.
Right. Even all the way through the tire wear, we're still have corner speeds approaching 200 miles an hour. And I heard Jeff Gluck say this on his podcast.
Yep.
The Start Your Engines podcast right after the race. And it rang true to me, and I thought about it. It's, you're watching a fun race when nobody is trying to stretch fuel because of tire wear.
Mm-hmm.
When you have to pit because of tire wear, that's going to be a good race.
Well, and we've said it before. I love a tire race. I'm not so sure about I like a fuel mileage race every once in a while. We talked about it on some of our early podcasts, episode number 10 and such.
Yeah, we did.
Where we were talking about, my problem with fuel mileage race a lot of times is that everybody makes it. And
oh, right.
we don't have guys actually running out of gas, so it wasn't really a fuel mileage race.
There was a couple of races at the 600 at Charlotte that were fun at the end. The problem was that the first 597 miles weren't.
Yeah.
And that's because of the surface. And the only issue I have with fuel mileage races is you almost never see them at tracks where you have good tire wear. Mm-hmm. And I'm always a bigger fan of tire wear than I am of let's see how far we can stretch the fuel.
Right. Sorry, I kind of
you start
preempted
eating
the
food over there?
Yeah, I preempted the
Jelly
Bean Closeout Challenge
thing.
with the middle of the show Raisinette Challenge because
leaving it to me to carry the show. He's over there chewing. He's going to get stuck in his.
Talk about Superman for a moment.
Well, they had a fun promotion that Hendrick Motorsports did to try to help out the at least get either NASCAR fans to go to the movies or just to give the movie a bigger promotion. It's probably some of both. But Jimmy Johnson had Superman on his hood, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. had Batman on his, and they were sharp-looking cars.
And in the end, Superman prevailed.
Superman did some very Superman things on that restart, and a lot of that had to do with what his team did for him in the pits, and the fact that there was a pit stop at all.
Right.
And so that was, that pitting not into that race totally under green, really hurt Harvick because he had a long run car, and they were really set up for that car to not be fast until all the pressure and heat got in the tires. So it really wouldn't have mattered what they did with their tire strategy having to restart. That's really what it boils down to. And Jimmy's car was one that could hook up either way. I suspect Chad Canals probably punched his calculator 100 times and figured out how much air to put in so that the right amount of heat and the right amount of pressure would be there at the right time to run 1.5 really fast laps. Not to say Kevin Harvick's crew chief couldn't figure that out, but I think the way they had the suspension and everything set up, it wouldn't have mattered. I don't know that they could have done any magic with their tire pressure during the pit stop to make it matter. So
I felt weird. Now, I did pick Jimmy Johnson, so I'm going to give myself the old pat on the back. I believe that's the first time this season in 5 races that either one of us have actually picked the winner.
We've been pretty bad so far.
Yeah, but playing footsie with me there?
No, I got to straighten my left knee. It hurts.
We're facing each other. If you've never seen us on Periscope, and we've got the desk that doesn't have a divider in between them. It's get to play a little footsie every once in a while. But where was I going with Jimmy Johnson? Who knows?
Well, they were good all day. I mean, that's the thing is they were 10th to 4th all day. But that means that they were fast enough to be in the front when it mattered, and they were fast enough to let a really good pit crew and a really good crew chief make some decisions that ended up winning them the race.
We stalled for me long enough to remember what I was going to say, so appreciate that. But not being it's not that I don't like Jimmy Johnson or nothing, but I'm not wearing his shirt. I'm not buying his stuff. I do go to Lowe's, but I don't. I'm not like a Jimmy Johnson fan, as you might say. But at the end of that race, I'm sitting there with our esteemed producer who's with us today, the Frizz 11, and she, I was sitting there like slapping her legs. So I'm like, "Come on, Jimmy, do this!" It was just exciting to see the race and see that maybe he has a chance at this. Not only for just winning that race and me being able to gloat about it on the PETM podcast, but also just and the history of it of him, getting a 77th or whatever. But just the fact that at that point he seemed like the underdog, and for him to be able to make that was really cool.
Well, I'm going to pause you right there, which you already were pausing anyway, but win number 77.
Yeah.
Like, we talked about how big it was for him to tie Dale Sr.
Yep.
Jimmy Johnson is now beyond. Okay, so that's a new paradigm that we have to process as race fans.
In this era.
Right now, like,
jeez.
It's a big deal because we're going to talk about Jimmy Johnson for the next 20 years.
Yep.
Like we have Dale Sr. the last 25 years, even before the end. And we're going to still talk about Dale for another 25 or 30 years, like we talk about Ned Jarrett and we talk about David Pearson and Richard Petty because of their impact on the sport. We're going to talk about Jimmy Johnson in that same group of folks. Whatever television is and whatever the sport is 20 years from now, when they do their throwback fill-in episodes because they're trying to fill time and they don't have it before Daytona, we're going to talk about Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, in this era and in this level of competition where there's not just 3 guys who are the best out there and everybody else are mechanics racing cars, I mean, just unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and I got dinged a couple of times on the old tweeter box talking about how today's racing is as competitive as it's ever been.
I say more.
I get that opinion because I soak in data from what I see on the racetrack, and when I hear guys like Larry McReynolds and Ryan McGee and Marty Smith and Darrell Waltrip, and even when you interview Junior Johnson and some of these other guys that have been around forever, they're like, yeah, there's way more cars that can win today than we raced.
Well, there's 20 at least.
Yeah,
that could win
every race
every
you show up,
race.
there's 20 cars that can win. It never was that way. Junior retweeted somebody today. That was a huge deal. Talk about Cale Yarbrough, the Bulldog.
Ooh, you want to give me that chicken skin again?
Yeah,
Talk about Cale.
winning at Bristol.
The one highlight where it wasn't him fighting somebody?
Right, the one highlight where he wasn't fighting one of the Allisons, and he led all 500 laps at Bristol, and he was 2 laps ahead of second place, 5 laps ahead of third, and 16 laps ahead of fourth.
If that happens today,
how much crap would get flung in the fan if that happened today?
everybody, I mean,
And they
nobody'd show up.
And the whole point of the tweet was some fan who evidently Junior follows or had exposure to. It was like, Cale Yarbrough, this awesome racer's Bulldog, boom, awesome. It's like, man, if that happened now, I'm not saying Cale wasn't an awesome racer and he's not a Bulldog, and I mean he's in our history books. Cale Yarbrough is someone everybody should love, but the way the races played out then, it's like you can't forget that. All these guys are in their 50s and 60s that are giving me all kinds of crap on the podcast handle because of what I talk about in today's racing and what I've learned about in the last 30 or 40 years of racing. Like, hey, you guys are packing all the data into one spot and you're rubbing it together and you're making one muffin. Mm-hmm. You can't do that because all those eras are separate. And today's era is 20 cars show up out of 40 every week that have a chance to win the race because it's that competitive.
And we have 25 to 30 on the lead lap at the end.
Yeah, well, it depends on the race.
Depends on the race. Depends on the cautions.
And how long
blah,
it goes
blah.
green and all that. But guaranteed at a short track race, we're going to have 30 cars on lead lap.
Yeah.
I don't remember how many we had at Fontana, but it was at least 20, if I remember correctly. Because people were talking about having a 15th or a 16th place day, and we're like, yeah, we had a pretty good day, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Finish on the lead lap. Everything's all right. All right. I said it before. I picked Jimmy Johnson, so I'll give myself the pat on the back there. Also picked Brian Vickers, so I was happy about that. Brian's going to be racing again in 2 weeks. We'll talk about that next week probably for our lead-in into Tejas, into Texas.
Is Texas where we're going next?
I believe so, because Right Front Tire in his home town area.
We want to promote
we'll be there.
His personal. He's going to do 2 personal tweet ups.
Oh man, that's
so anybody want to go get some Right Front Tire swag? Make sure you follow at T Right Front Tire and go meet that guy because he's pretty cool.
And we're sitting here wearing his swag right now.
And
we both
we're
got the
wearing
bracelet
his
on.
Tire Gives Back hashtag Tire gives back.
Yes, sir.
In support of him, so that's pretty cool.
So I was happy about my day because I picked Vickers. He's he finished 13th or so. So good finish overall as a dark horse. Who did you picked? Austin Dillon, who as a dark horse, who's been having, just continuing to come to his own.
Yeah, what did he finish about 6th?
I think he was top 10 again. Yeah. Who was your primary?
Yep.
Don't remember.
I think I picked Kurt, to be honest with you.
You said that I had left the door open because I picked. So you picked somebody obvious or picking under caution. I don't remember.
You know me the way I
don't
pick.
think it was Kurt. When you say who it is,
it probably was Joey in that respect. If I said you left the door open, or maybe.
Oh, somebody says Austin had a part break at the end. Whatever.
Oh, dang! I didn't see that. So one thing you can obviously see is that we don't really care enough to have all the data in front of us because we're not media. We're going to talk about the stuff we're not really good
every week.
Part of it
every week. Who'd you pick?
We'd much prefer rather make you laugh than get it right.
Here's a fart sound.
Yep. Yeah.
There you go. Hope you laugh.
I got to work on this, and then we'll have a
the
good fart
putty
noise. But
yeah,
I don't remember. I just liked the race. I enjoyed it. California is a really good race. It has been for over half a decade now, if you include this year.
Time for our new popular segment here. You ready for it?
Oh, yeah.
Cheaters!
Cheaters!
That's not a soundbite, y'all. I actually have to do that, and then Sherwin has to do the same thing. So,
but that's exactly what it sounds like when we're when we're
At a
doing it in
football
public. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He does it his way, and then I do it my way. And
It's perfect. The first time we did it on the podcast, I was like, man, that's right out of Stadium. That's exactly how it sounds. So we're going to point the finger right back at ourselves, being Casey Caven fans this week.
oh yeah,
And his
Just turning
guys.
that finger right around on ourselves.
Yep. Casey's fellas went over the wall a bit too soon and caused a little pass-through penalty, and that
Under
got him
green.
under green. It got him a lap down. He pretty much never made it up, out of contention, blah, 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 which led to some interesting on-track
Activity.
with
Yeah.
Miss
With,
Danica
one of the
Patrick.
most visible drivers in the sport.
Right.
Good or
So-
bad.
So I couldn't tell. All I knew was that I'm sitting there watching, and they're going, "Oh, Casey Kane" on TV before they switch over, and then of course I yell a bunch of cuss words and stand up and
We assumed
beat
he
them.
wrecked.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It was like and then they finish their sentence, has run into or has wrecked Danica Patrick, and I'm like,
Yeah, somebody said punted.
punted Danica Patrick. It was like, what? That's like the weirdest rivalry ever.
The one that doesn't exist. I mean,
Right, right.
In all the years you listen to the radio, eventually your driver has some sort of deal with every driver at some racetrack or another. But there's never been a deal between Casey Kane and Danica Patrick until now.
And he got called to the principal's office, which is like
Everybody
the first
got
time.
called to the principal's office.
Yeah. It's Spotter, Kevin Hamlin, the crew chief, Keith Rodden. Everybody got called to the principal's office for, whatever. And I guess they talked or whatever and said, "Hey, Spotter, you figure this out." Probably talk to Casey and say, I think he even said it, that they just wanted to make sure he was cool. And he's like, "Yeah, I made a mistake." Like, what do you think? Casey's sitting there messing with somebody who's on the lead lap after he's off the lead lap. They're on the lead lap. I don't know. It was weird.
This isn't at all an attempt to justify the situation because obviously it was not good. But what you had is you had Casey, who has had some issues with getting a lap down and didn't have the speed to get the lucky dog. But in this case, he did. He had the speed to be the fastest car one lap down.
Yep.
For the whole middle part of the race. And he felt like if he could get back by Danica, that his opportunity to get the dog was much improved. And then he makes the mistake where the cars get pulled together because he's still kind of coming down. She's starting to move up a little bit. I'm not blaming Danica at all because Kate, the blame squarely lies with the lap down car being that aggressive with a lead lap car.
Yep.
But he wasn't out of the race at that point. And in the tire cycle and all that stuff, he was doing what he should be doing if he thought he could get back on the lead lap. Unfortunately, didn't work out very well for Danica.
Right. And so let's see. So that was one thing. Then, of course, Danica decides that she's going to
Well, Danica forgets about the rule.
walk back up the track. Or not even – she didn't even get off the apron. But there's a rule about that. There's a rule. It's pretty black and white. And not only that, I heard Right Front Tire say it on the Over the Wall Race podcast, repeat offender.
Very much a repeat offender. And she approached a hot racetrack, which I'm not going to repeat the rule because it doesn't matter. They've already made their judgment. They fined her because she broke the rule. We know that now. But, I mean, there's a piece of this puzzle that is hard for me to process because one of the great things there's been in the past about NASCAR is that you get to see that interaction. Fans love that. Mm-hmm. Whether they're at the track and they have visibility of it, like you and I, when Tony Stewart smoked his helmet into Kenseth's car.
See, and I want that to still happen. We were right in front of that.
Yeah, we saw it head on. But the thing is, NASCAR would never recover if we had a situation like what happened with Tony at that dirt race. Mm-hmm. NASCAR would be done. It would be over. It would just stop. If somebody someway, I mean, remember what we had happen with Montoya breaking some weird suspension part and crashing into a
And
jet
blew
dryer?
up.
What
the
if
jet dryer.
So connect that situation with somebody being on the track pissed off at somebody else doing the finger wag. Remember when Kurt Busch was mad at Spencer and was like out into the track, like he was 3 or 4 feet away from the car showing his ass.
Yeah.
And like we just can't, like somebody getting killed out there, especially a driver. You just can't have that. And if it was Danica, holy cuss word.
Right. At what point can we talk about Danica's got a temper that she says she ignores all safety, she ignores all
She
courtesy.
assaulted Denny Hamlin.
Yeah.
After a shootout race or one of the
Did that? If you remember one of the Joey Kenseth races last season, she went under the radar because Joey Kenseth was the number one thing, but she wrecked somebody and got fined for it. And I mean, not only wrecked, but over her radio said, "Oh damn, he just passed us." I can't remember. Was it Truex? Who was it? Because she said,
was it Dinger?
might have been Dinger. I can't remember who it was, but she said, "Oh damn, he just passed us. I meant to wreck him. I'll get him on the next lap."
Yeah.
And then wrecks him on the next lap. Like all this went under the radar because it was one of them Joey
that
Kenseth
actually
races.
might have been like Alex Bowman or somebody like that, but
Whoever it was,
just giving those guys some
I mean-
exposure. But yeah, like she's got as big a temper as anybody, and is as reckless with her car after she feels like she's been wronged as anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the contention comes in for the people who don't support her as much as maybe you and I do, is that, like, how have you really earned your right to behave that way? I think with Kenseth, most people felt like he earned the right to do what he did to Joey, even though we all thought it was a very egregious situation, and so did NASCAR. And they, for the first time like ever, parked a championship contending driver for 2 races. That was a totally unheard of punishment.
Yep.
But it was also a totally unheard of situation, not to go right back down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But we're trying to compare it all and try to figure out. I mean, in the end, Danica got fined $20,000 and got put on probation for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
That is the definition of when you and I were 9 years old and your mom said, "Go stand in the corner." And because you were so nice to her, she didn't tell your dad that you goofed up.
yeah. So
That's that.
So yeah, and I agree with that severity of punishment against what she actually did this one time. So didn't go all the way up on the apron, but it is pretty black and white. And again, repeat offender. So $20,000 in probation, fine. We said we wouldn't talk about Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch got a $10,000 fine for not fulfilling media obligations or whatever, which I
Post Xfinity race.
I'll be honest, I did not know that was a thing, which apparently a bunch of media guys
I
didn't
thought
know
it
that
was a
thing.
cup thing, but
Yeah.
then Kevin Harvick not so eloquently explained to the media that it's not.
Right.
Although Kevin did do the walk and talk with Jamie Little, and so that's why NASCAR excused him. But yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is, the rules aren't the same for everybody, and I don't know why people get upset about that. Like, if you're a repeat offender in the court of law in the United States of America, the laws are not the same as if you're not.
Right.
Reciprocity is a thing. So
Reciprocity, that's the $5 word of the day at the PETM podcast.
oh yeah, that's the Pee Wee's Playhouse word day. Woo!
Ah!
So I mean, I don't understand why people get so upset when their driver who egregiously commits crimes at times, at least with his mouth, why he gets treated differently than someone who doesn't.
Well, Casey Kane didn't get a fine. Should he have? We're fans, by the way, full disclosure.
I think
That we
if
say all
he
the
had had
time.
a history of being a rough driver, I think you would have seen a different thing happen.
What if it was Kyle Busch that he wrecked?
I think you would have seen something.
You think so? What if it was Kyle Busch 2 years ago?
If he wrecked Kyle Busch.
Yeah, if he wrecked Kyle Busch.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think a couple years ago they would have had to just bring him to the holler and say, hey, you got what you deserve, bud.
Yep.
Kyle dumped Casey 3 times in 1 year, and there was zero retaliation.
It was just 3, right?
Well, Kenseth got him the
thought
other
it was
time.
4. Okay, I was like, there was
It was
a
Joe
fourth one.
Gibbs that got him
Dadgummit.
4. Yeah.
Make noise.
So and see how fans remember.
Yeah, right.
So you think that driver doesn't remember? I mean, we're making light and getting excited about something that we believe is a harmless incident. I don't think there will be anything going forward with Danica and Casey, but what it shows is that your behavior on the racetrack does matter, and if over and over and over you prove to NASCAR that you're willing to be reckless, you're going to be treated as such. There it is.
Yep.
And if over and over and over you've shown that you're not going to seek retribution just for the sake of retribution or vengeance for the sake of vengeance, then they're going to give you some leeway. I think all they really called Casey and Kevin Hamlin and Keith Rod to the hauler was to find out, hey, are y'all pissed off at Danica for something?
Yeah, what's going on?
Because we don't need that crap.
Two things that I was very happy about. Number one, Kyle Busch did not get fined for, pretty much
the
cussing
radio
up,
stuff.
Yeah, the radio stuff. He got on the radio. He was cussing up a storm. He was saying that NASCAR was fixed, blah, blah, blah. And that was on his team radio, which everybody can hear, and the guys in the booth can hear, and that they can broadcast over TV.
Something that multiple other drivers have said, including Kevin Harvick,
Yep.
in the past.
Yeah. So I'm glad that he wasn't fined for that, because I don't want them in the heat of the moment to have to think whether or not they should say something on the radio.
No, because
That's
we're
awful.
fans. And one of the coolest things about NASCAR, and this is one of the things I tried to convey on Twitter this week, was one of the greatest things about NASCAR and what sets it aside from other sports is that we are allowed as fans to listen to team communication. There is no other sport that offers that.
No.
And so to try to police that space and ultimately reduce the content that the fans can get, I think is a bad idea. If you're trying to sell or rent scanners outside the racetrack all for 3 hours for the race, and they rent a ton of them, y'all, that's a big business. If they make some sort of rule about what they can and can't say on the radio, and that limits fan exposure to one of the greatest things about NASCAR, that's a bad thing. I think they realize that.
Well, remember, 2 years ago, they got rid of the digital radio that they could talk to him privately with, too.
Which we were stoked about because we discovered there was a whole boatload of traffic between the spotter and the crew chief that we weren't hearing. Because they were just leaving the driver out on strategy stuff, and
Right.
or like the spotter saying, looks like he's pissed, or this, that, or
Yeah.
just wanting to say something to the crew chief about what's happening with the driver in the car, but not upset the driver.
Right. So I was very happy that Kyle Busch did not get a forced donation to the NASCAR Foundation.
Right.
On that one.
Right, that's all it really is.
Cole Pern as well. I was very happy that he did not get fined after his what was it he said?
He said, now I'm going to say it word for word, y'all.
Go for it.
Because this
It's
is
safe.
AM radio
Yeah,
proof.
We're good.
He said, I guess Joey Logano can't see out of his squinty, douchey eyes.
That's comedy, y'all. That's good stuff.
That is funny.
That's good stuff. If you're Joey, I think you need to come out with a Periscope or a little video where you squint your eyes real tight and just kind of go, I don't know what Cole Pern's talking about.
Yeah. He does have squinty eyes. He occasionally acts like a douche. It's kind of funny. I mean,
It's funny.
I think Joey could own it. I think he could own it by creating his PR team. If they aren't working on a T-shirt that shows like a silhouette, like one of those, what do they call it? A screen print of a picture of him.
Yep.
With like the squintiest eyes he's ever had. And this says over the top, squinty and then douche. I would wear that around all week if I was Joey Logano.
Holding up a trophy
mean,
with Martin Truex Jr. in the background,
Hey, lean on what you
upset.
Yeah, lean on what you learned from Delana Harvick. I wear the fire suit in this family. That whole, like, she created a whole, like, not a foundation, but a way to funnel money to their foundation by all that merchandise. Learn from her. And I hope he would, like, or she would call him and say, you know, you could really actually turn this into a pretty funny thing if you created your own T-shirt and you just owned being squinty and douchey.
I love it. And so back to the point was, I'm glad that Cole Pern was not fined or anything, because now we're talking about policing social media, which I don't think so either. So I'm glad, kind of in both those respects, in the communication respect, that Kyle Busch nor Cole Pern were handed any fines, and NASCAR didn't even mention them. Like, it was all the media and fans who were talking about, oh, are they going to get fined or whatever. NASCAR didn't even say a word.
Well, I said right away when the conversation first started, and I don't know if it was media or fans. Mostly, I pay attention to media on the tweeter box. Somebody said something about, could Cole Pern be fined for what he said on Twitter? I'm like, dude, if NASCAR is going to start trying to police Twitter, we're going to go to a place that's completely unmanageable. Like, you want to bring him into the hauler for a meeting and say, hey, how about say that in person and not on Twitter? But in the end, it caused more traffic. Like, NASCAR's probably like, yep, do that. We're not going to support you, but yeah, please do that. Because people are talking about NASCAR, and they're talking about the squinty douchey guy, who, oh, by the way, won more races than anybody else the last 2 years.
Right. So, squinty douchey. I'm in.
Squinty douchey. Hashtag squinty douchey.
Yeah. Let's talk about, because we're coming up on our time, so let's talk about the fan question. We had a fan question today from at Tomahawks47, exactly like it sounds, Tomahawks47, asked us he also got a sticker, so send us that picture of your sticker there, buddy, and we'll make sure to get it on the Wall of Fame up here. But he asked us who we think, or what do we think about a new manufacturer?
Well, there was a whole lot of discussion this week on Twitter about Audi.
Which I don't know if that's because there's no race next week,
and I think, so
people are trying to come up with news.
People are always trying to do something, but the thing is, it probably wouldn't be Audi because Volkswagen is the parent company, and the model in today's NASCAR is that they don't select an in-company brand as the leader for branding.
There's no Lexus. There's no
There's not a Lexus. There's not a Mercury.
Although
we don't have Pontiac or Buick anymore. Or
Chevy's
Oldsmobile.
kind of a GM, right? I don't know.
You're right. That is the one that. So when I got some flack over when I said that, it's like, well, I mean, like GM's not the GM nobody ever raced a General Motors car.
Yeah.
So that's the one that would be maybe a little different, but I mean that's obviously a little bit contradictory there, but it would be really cool. I saw a really terribly mocked up Photoshop of what an Audi Cup car might look like.
Is it 4-door?
Well, no, they took a car that was on track and they just kind of tried to paste in what the front fascia of an Audi might look like. And they just generally did a terrible job.
I like the idea of Audi better than Volkswagen, especially with Volkswagen's recent, whole diesel scandal thing.
Well, I do too.
That was some funny stuff on Twitter. I read all kinds of stuff about, the crew chief says you've got 10 laps left on your fuel and you run out of gas. I mean, there was some real funny stuff actually, and that one didn't come off very well, but there was some good stuff.
Well,
about fuel mileage.
Yeah,
races.
I'm seeing on the Periscope there's a little bit of contention going on about foreign automakers, and like one of the things you got to realize is that Toyota probably builds more of their fleet within the contiguous United States than the American manufacturers that we call American cars, like Chevy and Ford.
Right. Look at
Chevy
Kia.
and Ford.
Kia's doing it right here in our backyard in West Point, Georgia.
And that is as far as I know. Oh crap! Who owns Kia? I forget. It's Hyundai, right? Or
do they? I thought they owned themselves. Maybe
I think they're owned by somebody. It doesn't really matter. But I mean, the thing is to realize that Volkswagen's building cars right up there in Cleveland, Tennessee. BMW is building cars over in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Americans are putting these cars together. So just because it's a foreign brand doesn't mean it's a foreign thing. If those companies want to get into NASCAR, that's like the best thing we could hope for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because I mean, we've seen what happens when we try to compete in the different environments. When Americans try to go east over to Europe and race the Formula One, which they're trying to do again, good. But they struggle to compete, and they're because of the different platforms and the money required and all that stuff. I don't think we have to worry about in the near term a NASCAR where Audi, BMW, Mercedes, and
McLaren
and Kia are winning all the races.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So to have them here would just bring more attention and more money to the sport.
Yeah. So one of the big things this week that went all over Twitter was everybody's first tweet ever. So I'm just going to give my own self a pat on the back.
The 10-year or the 10th birthday of Tweeter.
Yeah. I'll give myself a little pat on the back here. My first tweet, I went back and did the old whatever website deal, did the old click, 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 and mash buttons and all that.
I did it. I mean, whatever.
And my first tweet was June 13th, 2010, so right at 6 years ago coming up. And it said, verbatim, first tweet ever, go Casey. That was the entire tweet. So
I remember seeing that.
I was pretty happy with my former 6 years ago self.
Yeah, and mine was it was a response to an Elliott Sadler. If you get this, it was a trivia thing. If you get this question right, then you have a chance to win a sign this thing or that thing or whatever it was. And the question was, there's only 3 drivers who ever won from the old backstretch pit lane at Bristol when it was 2 different pit lanes. Who were they? And so I think I did some really fast research and tried to make a cool guess of Cale Yarborough, Davey Allison, and Elliott Sadler. I knew Elliott Sadler was one of them, and I think I had figured out that Cale Yarborough was, and I just took a guess that Davey Allison was the other one.
Our esteemed producer, her first tweet was, hello, Twitter. I'm happy I'm on you, but have no idea how to use you. That's what she said. I think we have a winner.
Awesome.
I think we have a tweet winner. That's why she's doing the Twitter takeover during the podcast. She knows how to do that stuff. That's funny right there. If you can't laugh at that, you're wrong.
Meg alert.
Let's do some shout-outs, man.
Time to shout out.
Some folks got their stickers.
A whole bunch of them.
The sticker campaign is going. Y'all send us your pictures so you can get on the Wall of Fame here. But we've got, we talked about them before, Tomahawks 47. Lisa Knorr at Lisa_NOR, who's on the Periscope right now as well, part of the PETM posse. She sent us a pic, so she's going to be on there soon. Sorry, guys, I was in New York City. New York City!
Oh, your sister don't have a sticker yet.
I know. I know. This is completely this guy's fault. Scorpio88, it's at KCJO38879, got a sticker. Batman! Batman got her sticker. And at Meggy Dub, MEGGYDUB, got her sticker. Said she's going to send us some pictures. So we're looking forward to all the sticker pictures. I'm glad everybody got them.
Yeah, it's so much fun to do. So y'all just send us an email or a DM with your address. We'll be discreet. And you'll get a picture at like 3 or 8 days after, depending on how quickly I get to it.
We only sell your address to like 16 marketers. So
right.
That's how we keep the lights on here.
Yeah, 16 national marketers. So
right.
Like
you'll get something from Coca-Cola and Dodge and who knows. Now, we don't do nothing with them other than just throw them in the trash after we're done. So let's see here. Easter Bunny 500. Talk to us, man.
Yeah.
It's Easter.
Did it? Easter Bunny 500. Easter
Holy
candy.
cow. Sherwin brought a cornucopia
Of Easter candy.
of Easter candy. Now
All right,
we're
and
gonna
I want to say, I thought about making this segment some kind of a picks thing, and I know that's going to be a point of contention. Got some fruit punch Peeps here. I freaking love Peeps.
Really?
I freaking love Peeps.
And
I
I've
love
always hated 'em.
marshmallows.
Our esteemed producer loves Peeps. So
We're
you're
getting
gonna
into
have
this
to-
right now.
Okay, get after it. She's
So
coming
you got to
on.
keep talking. We're not ready to close it out yet because we got to do it with a jelly bean. But I'm getting into these Peeps,
Yeah, get into him.
We're in there.
Okay,
Look,
there he goes.
Peep.
He found the.
cramming that Peep in my mouth.
Well, let me see one. I mean, fruit punch. This is like
You like fruit punch,
Is
you're
this
gonna
high
like it.
C fruit punch or?
Yeah. High C fruit punch.
Oh wow, sponsored it. That was way more marshmallow than I thought it'd be.
Yeah, it's like 2 of the big marshmallows. Mm-hmm. Yeah, not bad. Oh, microwave it. Oh, we might have to film that on the Periscope. Microwaving a Peep.
Oh yeah, is that going to explode all over my microwave in here?
No, if you only do it for like 30 seconds, it just gets big and then gets small again.
Well, are you done eating that? Because you know what time it is.
Oh, heck yeah, I'm done eating it.
All right.
I need to open a beer, though, because I'm going to need something to wash down.
Something to wash down. Where he needs beer to wash down the beer.
Finally lost my glasses.
Lost his glasses.
Yard
You
sale earlier.
showed
They're done.
your butt to the Periscope guys.
At least I didn't see my a-hole. Wait, what?
Who's saying that? Let's bring up that music and fire these things in the gullet. You know how ours work.
Oh, yeah. Jelly bean closeout challenge.
Closeout challenge, boys and
Oh,
girls.
that's way too many. That's not what... All right,
Get them in there.
all right, we're closing out the show now. Chewing up these beer-flavored jelly beans are good as hell.
As always, you listen to PETM Podcast. This is Rusty. I'm at Tailgate Mayor.
And I'm Sherwin at Pregame ENG.
Tell them the website, man.
Oh, yeah, website is www.petmpodcast.com.
Twitter is at PETM Podcast.
That's right. And we got some email addresses. You can email the podcast at petm@petmpodcast.com, or you can email us individually at rusty at petmpodcast.com
Yep.
or Sherwin at petmpodcast.com.
Easy to remember.
Check us out on the Facebook.
We do have got that Facebook deal.
Just search PETM Racing Podcast on the Facebook. You'll find a fan page there. You can click on and like.
Well, that'll do it. Got a week off. Y'all have a good Easter. Eat you some ham.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to you next week.
And them Easter bunny eggs going.
Peace out, y'all.
Thumbs up.